The Scarlet and Violet block of cards is officially over, and now we have the new Mega Evolution set, which brought us a bunch of 3-prize Pokemon and a lot of fun tools for existing decks, including some brand new decks. Now I would say surprisingly, but in my opinion unsurprisingly, most of the new Megas aren't that good. It's kind of difficult to make a 3-prize Pokemon better than some of the existing 2-prize Pokemon because a lot of times they do kind of the same thing. Really the only new Mega card that has seen success is Mega Lucario, and aside from that we have a couple Megas that are useful in certain existing decks like Mega Gardevoir and also Mega Mawile and Archaludon. But these new Mega cards aren't really like essential parts of the deck, they're kind of more so tools to make existing decks even better. The obvious best new card from the set is Lily's Determination, which a lot of people anticipated going into the set. This is a very powerful draw supporter that allows you to draw up to 8 cards if you haven't taken any prize cards yet, and even if you have, you're still able to draw 6 cards. And we're seeing this card being added to a lot of existing decks like Gardevoir, Dragapult, Grimmsnarl, and a bunch of other decks. So it's very clear that this right here was going to be a good card that's applicable to a lot of existing decks. But the surprising new duo that has taken storm in a lot of decks is Solrock and Lunatone. This combination of cards right here is an insane draw power, and we're seeing it being used in a few different decks that have honestly made the decks a lot better. So today I want to kind of talk about the potential of Solrock and Lunatone and what it's kind of done to some of the decks in the format right now. I want to kind of explain what they do in those specific decks and why they make these decks better, and kind of give you a breakdown on the deck lists that have been doing pretty well. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it. So to start off, let's talk about what these cards specifically do. So we have Solrock and we have Lunatone. They pretty much only work together. If you have just one and not the other, then it's basically just another bulk card. But when you have both of these cards in play, they are incredibly powerful. We got Solrock here with 110 HP, and it does have the Cosmic Beam attack for 70 damage. It is not affected by weakness or resistance, and it does cost 1 fighting energy, and it only works if Lunatone is in play. This card right here is a solid single prize attacker, similar to a card like Fan Rotom, but unlike Fan Rotom, this card is a lot more bulky. It has 110 HP, which is a very awkward number to kind of hit at times, so it's just an overall really solid single prize attacker, just to kind of get that early game aggression and start taking knockouts. Got a lot of 70 HP Pokemon in the format, like Dreepy and Ralts, that you're able to easily deal with Solrock, and kind of prevent those decks from setting up. Solrock's partner Lunatone here doesn't really attack. It does have an attack for 2 energy that does 50 damage, but you're not going to be using that. You're going to be using it for the Lunar Cycle ability, and kind of same thing as Solrock, you have to have a Solrock in play, and if you do, you can discard a fighting energy and draw 3 cards. This is a very solid draw supporter right here. In the past, if you played the Pokemon TCG, you remember cards like Radiant Greninja, which allow you to discard an energy and draw 2 cards. Kind of the same thing here, except that it has to be a fighting energy and you get to draw 3 cards. So unlike Radiant Greninja, it does require a little bit more, but it is very easy to set up in a lot of these decks, and you're able to just draw more cards, which is always a good thing. You always want to be drawing cards in the TCG. So now that we've talked about what these cards do, what decks are they finding success in? Right now there's 3 decks that are finding a lot of success with this, 3 actual like meta decks I would say. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about all 3. The first one of course is Gholdengo. After that we have Ceruledge, which has received an insane buff with this duo, and lastly we do have the brand new deck Mega Lucario. So to start off, we have Gholdengo. Now this is a deck that, kind of similar to Dragapult, we've seen many different ways to play this deck. We've seen it paired up with Joltik, we've seen it paired up with other single prize Pokemon like Caesar or the baby Gholdengo. We've seen a lot of different builds of Gholdengo in the past, I'd say 6 months. They've all kind of found success. And the big draw to Gholdengo is the consistency. This is a deck that's pretty straightforward. I think if you're a newer player, it's a great deck to start off with because you basically just want to chain knockouts and just kind of prize race your opponents. And basically with Gholdengo, the key to it is consistency. Now right now there's a lot of consistent ways to play Gholdengo, but the new Solrock and Lunatone combination here has made the deck feel even more consistent, and we're kind of seeing it pop up all throughout online events. We even saw it at the Full Grip Games tournaments. We've just kind of seen it everywhere in Japan finding success as well. And what it really does is it kind of frees up some space for other things in the deck while also giving you more draw power. With a deck like Gholdengo, your attack does more damage if you have more energy cards in your hand. And a lot of times we're able to set this up with the superior energy retrieval by pulling those energy cards out of our discard pile. A lot of times early on with this deck, you basically want to get these energy cards in your discard pile. That way in the late game, you're able to pull them right back and chain those big knockouts. What this duo does for this deck here is basically it allows you to get energies in the discard pile pretty fast, like turn 1. We're able to get Solrock and Lunatone out because we do run the Precious Trolley as our ace spec now that we don't have to run Energy Surge Pro. So we can basically set up our board with Gimme Ghouls, with Lunatone, with Solrock, and if we choose to, we can also put Genesect down. But basically from turn 1, we're able to start drawing cards and discarding energies, which is good for our superior energy retrievals later on in the game. At the same time, what this does is it gives us a solid single prize attacker where we can actually be aggressive. That's one of the things that Gholdengo kind of lacked with some of these other builds. We obviously had like the Joltik Iron Hands build, right? But you have to take a turn to charge up with Joltik. So a lot of times you're not able to be the aggressor on turn 1. With this deck right here, if you're going second, you're able to hit for 70 damage on your first turn, while also drawing more cards and also setting up your Gimme Ghouls. We run 4 Boss's Orders, so really with this deck, we can keep a single prize board state while avoiding putting any, 2 prizes in play like Genesect without evolving into Gholdengo just yet. We can basically create a single prize board state where we have Solrock, Lunatone, and then 3 or 4 Gimme Ghouls on the bench. And we're able to chain knockouts with Boss's Orders and Solrock, knocking out things like Dreepy or Ralts or even the Impidimps. And we're essentially able to start that prize race earlier on, be the aggressor, take the early knockouts while also putting energy cards in our discard pile. As the game kind of progresses, you have that draw power naturally with Gholdengo where you're able to draw cards every turn, but you still have that option with Lunatone and Solrock to where you can draw 3 more cards. So you can pretty much find anything that you need in the late game. The early draw power gives us that consistency to set up our board, and the late game draw power allows us to find exactly what we need to close out games. So overall, this is a really good consistency card, but it also gives us that single prize board state where we can be the aggressor and start taking knockouts. Like I said, we've been seeing some success already in Japan with the Champions League. There were 3 in top 32, which is pretty solid. And if you look at Japanese city leagues, you're kind of seeing it everywhere with all 3 of these decks that I mentioned already. We're also seeing it in online tournaments over here in the States, so we are seeing success with this card everywhere, and I do think that this is going to be the build to play going into Milwaukee. This deck is pretty linear, but when it's consistent, that's really not too much of a problem. If you're able to consistently game in and game out and just get set up and do exactly what you want to do, then that's kind of a good deck to go into a bigger tournament where there's multiple rounds, best of 3, and you're really relying on that consistency to do well. And out of all 3 of these decks that I'm talking about today, I do think Gholdengo is the best position, and it is the most meta deck, I guess you could say. It's the best one out of the 3 for sure. The next deck we need to talk about is Ceruledge EX, and this of course is a deck that kind of just disappeared entirely. Obviously it's a deck that's kind of always been around, but it's never really been good. I do think with Solrock and Lunatone, it makes the deck much better and actually a viable option if you're going to a big tournament. I think it's definitely a viable option to try to make day 2. And same thing, it makes the deck way more consistent. It allows you to have room for other cards in the deck and just kind of consistently set up. This deck also had a top 32 appearance over in the Champions League in Japan. That build specifically had the Brilliant Blender A-Spec, but we've been seeing a lot more of Legacy Energy, which I kind of agree with. I think it's definitely a better card. The big problem with this deck before was just kind of getting set up and getting those energies in the discard pile fast. We did kind of rely on Brilliant Blender for that, but you had no real way to like consistently do it. This deck previously kind of got paired up with the Reverum engine, which was kind of an issue because you had to evolve into it, so it just was a lot slower. And with Solrock and Lunatone, you're able to just consistently turn 1, be able to discard those energies, draw more cards, use cards like Carmine to discard them, or Squawkabilly or Ultra Ball. You have plenty of ways to discard cards. And so what this allows you to do is it allows you to just basically discard energies while also drawing more cards and then using your other cards to discard those energies. Again, I think the big issue with this deck previously was just getting set up and getting those energies in the discard pile fast. Kind of the same thing around all of these decks, I would say. Mega Lucario is a little bit different, but kind of similar to Gholdengo, except that Gholdengo previously, you had way more ways to draw cards. It's just kind of a consistent deck overall, and with this deck, it was just a lot harder to kind of get set up. I also think in general, it's just kind of a better meta play. With all the Gholdengo running around, you have just ways to easily hit for knockout and just kind of initiate that prize race early on with the Solrock. This is another consistent deck that's pretty straightforward. You just hit as hard as you can, as fast as you can, and just take the early knockouts. So highly recommend if you enjoy Gholdengo, you also check out Ceruledge. It's kind of in the same position, honestly. Like, I think Gholdengo is a better deck overall right now, but I do think Ceruledge is a pretty good play considering the fact that it does hit Gholdengo for weakness. I think the Legacy Energy makes the deck very interesting, and I think you do have the space for it now that you have Solrock and Lunatone. Basically, it makes your 2 prize Pokemon turn into a 1 prize Pokemon whenever it gets knocked out. So that's always a good idea, kind of forces your opponent to take that extra prize card. I'm really excited to see how this one does in Milwaukee. I think we'll definitely see some in top 32. I do think that this deck got a lot better and it's actually a viable option now. I don't know if it's like a tier 1, top of the format kind of deck, but if it's not, I think it's kind of like right under that. Last up, we do have Mega Lucario EX, really kind of the only viable brand new deck from the Mega Evolution set. The only Mega Evolution that really got its own deck besides maybe Mega Venusaur, which isn't that great right now. I do think Mega Lucario is a very solid deck. Unfortunately, it gets destroyed by Mega Gardevoir, or sorry, Gardevoir in general. So it's kind of a problem if you want to like actually do good at a tournament. But I do think as Gardevoir kind of rotates, I do think Mega Lucario has a lot of potential. Very strong deck overall. You basically have Mega Lucario to just kind of accelerate those energies onto your other fighting Pokemon. But you have a lot of single prize Pokemon that, again, kind of just work in a single prize board state where you don't have to have any 2 or 3 prize Pokemon in play. As I've already mentioned for the other 2 decks, you've got Solrock and Lunatone to draw cards, to basically be an early game attacker. But with this deck, we do also run the Premium Power Pro to be able to do even more damage. This card is an item card where our fighting Pokemon do 30 more damage that turn, and it does stack, so you can play multiple in one turn. We've also got things like Maximum Belt and Vitality Band to do a little bit more damage to hit certain numbers. And so basically it's kind of similar to the other 2 decks, but the difference with this one is we're hitting with more damage with Solrock if we choose to. You can attach a Vitality Band to hit for 80 damage to knock things out like Frillish. And if you play a Premium Power Pro that same exact turn, you're then hitting for 110 to be able to knock things out like Monkey Dory because it's not affected by resistance. So unlike the other 2 decks where you're hitting for just 70 damage, with this one we're actually hitting for more damage, and we can keep that 1 prize board state even longer because we have plenty of ways to attack. We've also got the Hariyama here with the ability, which is kind of like a boss's orders from an evolution Pokemon, kind of similar to Hobbs Double. So whenever you evolve, you get to switch out one of your opponent's Pokemon. But with this card here, we do also have the Wild Press attack for 210 damage. And again, if you attach a Maximum Belt, you're now knocking out Gholdengo. If you attach, the Vitality Band, you're hitting for 220, so we have ways to kind of modify that damage. Obviously, the cost on this one is 3 fighting energy, but a lot of these builds are playing the reversal energy, which basically satisfies that as long as we are behind in prize cards. We have plenty of ways to attack and do damage before actually evolving up into Mega Lucario. These cards were basically made for this deck. It obviously makes a lot of sense to go ahead and play them because we do have ways to get fighting energy out of our discard pile with Mega Lucario. Whenever you use Aura Jab, you're able to attach 3 fighting energy from your discard to any of your bench Pokemon. So essentially we're able to discard those fighting energy early on, keep the 1 prize board state, and then whenever we do need to power up our Pokemon, that's when we can put Mega Lucario into play and go ahead and bring those back from the discard pile. This deck has a lot of solid matchups. It obviously has some bad ones as well, specifically Gardevoir, of course. But again, I do think once Gardevoir rotates out, this will be a more viable deck. I think right now, out of the 3 decks we talked about today, this one is definitely the worst out of the 3. Not to say that it's bad. If you don't run into Gardevoir, you're gonna have a really good time. But I just think right now it's not the play at any kind of big events. So overall, Solrock Lunatone, very strong draw engine, very early game single prize attacker, which is very nice. And with all 3 of these decks, you kind of want to have energies in your discard pile, so it kind of works really well with all 3. Again, I think Gholdengo is obviously the best out of the 3, followed by Ceruledge, and then lastly is Mega Lucario, but I do think that can change as things rotate out. Well, obviously Gholdengo will rotate whenever Gardevoir does, so that's just going to be knocked off the list. But I think right now it's just a really solid duo. We're seeing it too like in GLC with the fighting type deck that recently won the Full Grips Games tournament. So I just think overall it's just a really strong duo, and I think we're going to see it moving forward with some other decks as we kind of get more new cards. Go ahead and let me know in the comments what you guys think of the new duo. Let me know which deck has been your favorite out of the Mega Evolution set. Me personally, it's Alakazam and Dunsparce. I've been having a good time with that deck, so I'm really excited to play that possibly in person, even though there's a lot of shuffling. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you subscribed. Other than that, hope you guys have a good day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.